Thousands of Palestinians who fled the northern region of the territory due to fighting there are returning after the ceasefire went into effect. Former United States Ambassador to Israel, Dan Shapiro, joins me now. Mr. Ambassador, it's so good to see you. What do you think this next weekend, heading to Monday and Tuesday, are going to look like in the region, and what is your level of optimism about phase one of this Trump-articulated deal?
Major phase one is already underway. The Israeli military has redeployed to the agreed lines. About 50% of Gaza now remains under its control outside of the urban areas. The guns have fallen silent. And then over the next 72 hours, the most important element will happen. The hostages that they still hold will be released to Israel and to their families. A significant amount of aid will flow into Gaza, much higher levels than before. Also, some Palestinian prisoners will be released. That is phase one that essentially ends the war. And you have no doubt that's going to occur? I feel highly confident that's going to occur. The agreement was that once Israel redeployed to those lines, that, excuse me, 72 hours later, the hostages would be released. That should happen by noon on Monday. Is it at all, from your perspective, Mr. Ambassador, a complicating factor that some in the region have acknowledged, I believe the Prime Minister did today, that the remains of some of the deceased hostages may not be recoverable and may not be found? It's a complicating factor, and it could be a tragic situation for some of those families. There are 28 deceased hostages. Hamas claims not to know or not to be able to reach, not to know the whereabouts or not to be able to reach the remains of some of them. This could be true. It could also be Hamas's psychological warfare to try to leave that festering open wound as a kind of way of sticking it to Israel, even as they've largely lost this war. I don't think— Or creating an idea of penalization for the Prime Minister, saying they might have died during warfare. They will certainly make that claim in any case. So I don't think if it's a small number of such deceased hostages that are not found in this period and returned, it will derail the overall deal. A task force has been set up, the United States, Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey, to try to help identify the whereabouts of any missing remains. But I don't think that would derail the overall deal. My colleague Norah O'Donnell had a fascinating conversation with former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton this afternoon about this. I want to play sound from Secretary Rice and then Secretary Clinton, get your reaction.
I was glad to read that the United States is going to deploy 200 or so civil military personnel for civil military coordination, because we will have capabilities to help in getting people there, getting the humanitarian assistance organized. And so that's a step that we've not seen before.
Most importantly, the conflict hopefully will end with the ceasefire. The hostages will be returned. And then the very hard work of rebuilding Gaza, of finding the kind of security that Israel and the Palestinians, after Hamas, deserve to have, moving forward with the other points in the plan to try to create an opportunity for Palestinians to have a better life and for Israel to have greater peace and security.
So 2 points. Condoleezza Rice emphasizes some U.S. civil military personnel there on the ground. Important, she says, for expediting humanitarian assistance. Former Secretary of State Clinton saying hard work ahead, phase two. Both secretaries are right. Secretary Rice cited the civil military component of U.S. Central Command that's there. In fact, I was at the Pentagon at the end of the Biden administration, and we used something similar to help monitor the ceasefire achieved in Lebanon between Israel and Hezbollah. Now, these forces can help monitor the ceasefire. They can help familiar with that work, in other words, very much facilitate the flow of aid and help facilitate, once there are international forces identified, not U.S., but to go into Gaza, they can help be enablers of that force. So that's very important that the U.S. military will be involved. And Secretary Clinton is also right that the real hard work of phase two has barely begun. Phase one is critical. This will end the war, bring enormous relief to the hostages, their families, and Palestinian civilians. But a major task awaits. How will Hamas be disarmed and ultimately removed from power? Without that next critical step, all of the remaining elements, getting reconstruction funding to flow so that
Gaza can be rebuilt, getting the Palestinian Authority into Gaza so they can start to exercise authority, getting some kind of discussion going between Israelis and Palestinians about a political horizon. It identifies in President Trump's plan that includes a credible pathway to a Palestinian state down the line, no doubt. But none of those things will happen if Hamas still clings to power and still poses a threat to Israel or to continue to crush the people of Gaza.
And President Trump due to go to the region this weekend, and there's a summit planned in Egypt with lots of the key players discussing some of the very things you outlined. Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for your time, as always.
Thanks, Major.